I think I'd be a little unsettled. You're kind of just walking along a canal. There's a bunch of brightly colored boats, but it's darker and it's starting to kind of come to nighttime, and all you can feel are thousands of eyes, but there's not anybody else around. It feels weird, kind of, I don't know, eerie? Would you find it eerier to know that the eyes that are watching you are thousands of dolls? Let's get into it. But before we do, welcome to Creepycassettiyt, your place for horror in reality and beyond. If you're new here on this channel, we talk about dark history, weird mysteries, true crime, and strange tales. So if any of those things are entertaining to you, please hit the subscribe button because I would love for you to join me for these conversations. We're taking a little break from recently. It's been about natural disasters and true crime, but today we're going to talk about Isla de las Muñecas, or the Island of the Dolls. Dolls are creepy to begin with, are they not? I mean, I couldn't be the only person who thinks so. At some point, someone thought, you know that my buddy doll from the 80s, what if it was possessed by a serial killer? And now we have the Chucky series. We've got movies, we've got a television series, we've got dolls, and there is a psychological explanation. It's called the Uncanny Valley, and I'm going to read this directly. The Uncanny Valley is a theory in aesthetics suggesting a humanoid object appearing almost but not exactly like a real human can evoke feelings of eeriness or revulsion rather than familiarity due to the object's proximity to reality, yet noticeable imperfections. This explains why lifelike robots are creepy AF. I mean, did anybody else see that Tesla robot? The video that popped up not that long ago? They're like talking to this thing. It's like talking like you would think there was some kind of human behind it. Who would be surprised to find out there is? But I digress. So let's talk about this island. Just south of Mexico City lies a borough of canals on top of Lake Xochimilco. On the lake are what are called chanampas, or man-made islands, a floating garden used to grow fruits and vegetables on freshwater lakes. What an incredible feat of human engineering. These chanampas are permanent fixtures. Unfortunately, many of those beautiful islands were filled in and turned into entire cities following the Spanish-Aztec War from 1519 to 1521. But quite a few remain, and they are now a popular spot to travel and relax. Many take a trip along the canal in these beautiful, vibrantly colored boats called tajineras. The place is a recognized UNESCO World Heritage Site, and I'm looking forward to checking it out one day. One of these chanampas is a home of a very eerie attraction, Isla de las Muñecas, or the Island of the Dolls. The story is, in the 1950s, a man named Julian Santana Barrera left his home with his wife and children to isolate himself on the little island. One day, just outside the hut, he either saw a little girl drowning and attempted to save her, but was unsuccessful, or another story says he found the body of the little girl floating down the canal, and not far off was a little doll. The girl ended up in the water. She was either swimming around with some friends or her sister, and a current swept her away, drowning her and leaving her at the bottom of the waterway where Don Julian found her, along with the little doll that had a little straw hat attached to her little head. Not far from the site where he found the little girl, he left her doll hanging from a tree. Side note though, although this is a story that Don Julian may have told others, some people close to him believe the girl was a hallucination. Don Julian was dealing with some mental instability, which explains why he isolated himself away from his family on the island in the first place. There's nothing recorded about the girl's death in any news sources or legal documents. Following the incident, Don Julian claimed to have felt shadows looming over him and even heard crying. He believed the little girl's spirit was sad. On top of this, he kept trying to grow crops, but they would just die off. So he would attempt to regrow them again, and those crops would die off as well. So in an effort to sort of appease the sadness of this little girl and hopefully ward away any other spirits that might be inhabiting the island, he built a one-room hut with an altar. But the little girl's spirit kept coming back, and apparently nothing he was doing so far would appease her. Not long after, he found another doll floating down the canal, and he also hung this doll up up on the tree. And then he thought to himself, what if I just collected bunches of dolls for this little girl in her afterlife to play with and maybe ward her away from causing any more damages to the crops? So he starts getting them from all over the place, getting them from landfills, and some of these dolls were in shambles. There were tatters to the clothes, they were filthy, they were missing limbs, but he would bring them all back to the island and he would nail them up to any structure he could find, whether that be a tree, whether that be one of the huts, walls, whatever he could find, he had a doll hanging up there. Some dolls were even gifted by visitors to the island or people who just knew what Don Julian was up to and wanted to help him with his endeavor by providing them with even more dolls for the collection. To the point that over the 50 years that he was the caretaker of this island, he managed to bring in over 4,000 dolls to the area. And that collection of thousands of plastic eyes seemed like they would follow visitors as they walked along the path. Well, after 50 years of decay, some of these dolls were missing even more parts, and some of their eyes were washed away by rain, and their clothes had even more holes. They stayed exactly where they were. But of course, all of this damage kind of gives an even more eerie feeling. In 2001, Don Julian was found dead from a heart attack, allegedly in the same spot he found the little girl that many decades before. Some people believe the little girl came back to take the island's caregiver with her. After Don Julian died, his nephew, Anastasio, took over as caregiver of the island. That went on for a good 18 years or so before he also passed away in 2019. Then Don Julian's nephew, Javier Romero Santa, took over caretaking duties for the island. He doesn't live there now, though. He and his family live about 20 minutes away, but he still checks in and makes sure everything is hunky-dory. There are no other humans who live on this island. In this area also, it's not like they can kind of wipe away the dolls and start afresh and maybe put in some new properties, because concrete construction is forbidden in this area. You can only have like wood buildings. There's no electricity, there's no running water, but people visit often. It is a big site for people to visit when they do travel to Mexico City. Of the over 4,000 dolls that inhabit the island, only one of them has a name. Her name is Augustinita, and she wears a tiny pair of glasses, a flower crown, and a teal dress. She was Don Julian's favorite. The doll was his companion, his protector. He believed she could even cure him, although it's not clear what he needed curing from. He would leave her little plates of offerings. Nowadays, there are visitors who come just to see Augustinita to have their own blessings bestowed. And people come from all over the world. Many speak of feeling a sort of energy around the island. Some have heard weeping, childlike crying, or even whispers. Others say they have seen the doll's legs and arms move, not being pushed by wind, but possessed or controlled by spirit. Visitors have also said they were beckoned to the island by the dolls. Some even say they moved their head and their eyes to follow visitors. I'm inclined to believe that most of these peoples have a wild imagination, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I do think people have the tendency to give otherwise benign objects a life of their own. To this day, people bring their own dolls as a sort of offering to the island, but never ever take one, because it's alleged that you'll be cursed if you do. Now, I don't necessarily know what the doll's gonna do to you if you do take them, but I mean, do you really want to find out? Because I personally wouldn't. Now, because the island is such a big tourist attraction, of course there are some places who are trying to kind of replicate this, but there's only one true island of the dolls. I am curious, do you think you'd be brave enough to visit the island? What about at night? What about camping out overnight? I would visit during the day, but I know better than to hang around anywhere that might be potentially haunted overnight. I'm sure by 3 a.m. I would be a ball of nerves, and the slightest sound would probably give me a heart attack. Tell me what you think in the comments below. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will be back soon with another video. This will happen more often, I promise. And in the meantime, love you very much. Have a wonderful day.